I like Chris's decision to 3-bet bluff. I think his sizing is really great too versus the short stack player. Ace X offsuit is pretty good to 3-bet bluff with because of the blockers. It's a little more likely you get a fold than normal. It doesn't play that well to call. So, table 2, we're facing this guy's button open again. Looks like he's been pretty tight from the button so far, raising 34% over 29 samples. And his fold to 3-bet is 67%, so I think with King Queen offsuit, we're going to be well ahead of his range. King Queen is probably one of the top like 12% of hands, and it plays pretty well in a 3-bet pot because people tend to either take a hand that's beating us, like Ace Queen, or Ace King, and 4-bet them, and then they call with hands that we dominate. So I think King Queen actually plays really well in a pot where we 3-bet. Table 1, the weaker player opens and the button calls, and we have King Queen offsuit again. I think that's also a really a good spot to 3-bet over calling. I much prefer 3-betting because, first of all, the weaker player is also going to have the same effect where he calls with a lot of hands that we're dominating, and 4-bets a lot of hands that beat us. So it's going to play well, and he's going to call a lot of 3-bets probably because he's playing pretty loose. So it looks like he has a tendency to call. And I mean, we might be up against this regular on the button too, but sometimes he's going to fold if he has some sort of weak speculative hand. So I like Chris's decision to donk out once we do see this flop and it's monotone. I don't think he's likely to get bluffed off his hand because we could be donking strong hands here too. Stronger hands like 2-pair or flush. So like donking, I think that's the best play. Table 2, we're facing a c-bet, and when people are on the button, they tend to raise any hand that has an ace. So his c-bet's pretty credible, and I don't like raising because we don't rep any a very like strong range on this board. I mean, we could have a set or 2-pair, but that's pretty much it. It's pretty unlikely, so I don't think we're gonna get a lot of credit. But I don't like reverse floating because the same thing is in effect where since we don't have a strong range, then our opponent can put a lot of pressure on us. So table 1, once this weaker player calls the flop, if you remember earlier in this video, he called the flop, or called the turn with a very weak flush draw on a monotone board. So I think that we can bet here again for value. We kind of want him to call us, so I bet on the smaller side, like 18 or something like that. Table 2, I mean, even though we hit our king, it doesn't really change the relative values of hands in play. So like just check folding again. So like Chris's bet sizing on table 1, I think that's good. Chris decides to check call again on table 2, and I think that's a pretty big mistake. I mean, we're not likely to have the best hand when he double barrels here. He's pretty likely to have an ace or some sort of flush draw, and in either case we're gonna be guessing pretty much. So I'm not that big a fan of that. I think Chris's bet sizing on table 1's a little bit on the big side, 48 and a 60. We kind of want to make him think that we missed our draw, but also people are more likely to call smaller bet sizes. So I think if we bet something like 40, he's slightly more likely to call if he has some sort of jack or something.